Maybe you're surprised to hear that a change in schedule can make a significant impact on the success of a STEM program. But to the experienced STEM teachers that I've spoken with, the schedule is the number one barrier to success. Let's take a look and see how. So here's a typical STEM schedule. Now, there really is no such thing as a typical STEM schedule, I realize. Every school, every program, they've got it's all different, right? But just for the sake of this illustration, I'd like to just use this as our sort of prototypical example. So here's a K through 4 elementary school, and there's 4 periods in the day that the STEM teacher is teaching. And so Monday through Friday, they rotate through. So Monday, they see all 4 sections. Let's just say there's 4 sections of 3rd grade and 4 sections of 4th grade all the way through the building. So then Monday is the teacher's 3rd grade day, and he sees all the sections, or she sees all the sections of 3rd grade. Likewise, Tuesday is 4th grade, Wednesday is 2nd grade, Thursday is kindergarten, and Friday is 1st grade. Now, if we think about this, any one student, right, how many times a week do they have STEM? Right? Well, let's just say it's a student in grade 3A in that section, so they have it on Monday at first period. And that's the only time that they have STEM in the entire week. So let's say this STEM teacher is starting a new project and they're having the students build something. It's an engineering design challenge of some kind, and the student group is creating a design, and they're messing with some materials, and maybe they even get it started a little bit, and then they have to put it away, right? They have to put it aside. And there's 2 major problems with that. Well, maybe even 3. But the first one is that their flow has been totally interrupted, right? Those students were in a groove. They knew what they were thinking. They knew what they were trying to do. They knew how they were going to try to do it. And by the next time they come back, the following Monday, that flow has been totally interrupted. The second problem is whatever those students were working on needs to be put somewhere. It needs to be stored. And so you might think that the number one issue for STEM teachers is space. And certainly most STEM educators are going to complain about space. But really, space and schedule are connected to each other, right? You need to store all this stuff because there are so many kids who are having STEM every single week, right? All of these kids need a place to put their stuff. And the third problem then is that all of them are using stuff. So if you're building things out of Legos, then all of your Legos are being used by all of those students in 1 week. So let's take a look at, okay. So that means you're going to run out of space and you're going to run out of materials because those materials are being stored all over the room, right? You can't possibly have that many projects, 400 projects stored in your room at one time or all the time. So let's take a look at how a change in schedule, a rather significant change in schedule, can address these problems. So here's what a STEM-friendly schedule would look like. You'll notice the very first 6 weeks. Let's look in the upper left-hand corner at just the first 6 weeks of the school year, let's say. And again, this is just as an example. So some first few weeks of school, you see that every day this STEM educator is seeing the same group of students, the 3rd graders, every single day. Now, let's just think about that. Now, don't shut it down yet and say, well, that's impossible. But just think about what that gets us a second. If I'm seeing those same 3rd graders every single day, now that student who was in section 3A, and they were in that groove, in that flow, they were working, now they come back the very next day and they're ready to pick up their project and carry it forward to the next step, right? Think about how much further they're going to get in 5 consecutive days or in 3 consecutive days than they ever would have if those days were separated by a week. Now, think about the other potential benefit here, right? Is that now when I only have 3rd grade this week, I just went from seeing 400 or 500 students in that week to now only seeing 100 students in that week. Seeing them more intensely, but only 100 students. That means only 100 projects that are going on right now. Only 100 projects that need to be stored in my room. Only 100 projects worth of materials that need to be purchased and used at a given time. So I've dramatically reduced the amount of space that's needed by seeing those students more intensely. Now, how is this How is this possible? Well, if I can rotate, if I can enter in a rotation where now I see those third graders intensely during that first 6 weeks or first period of time, then the second period of time, now I'm seeing the fourth graders intensely, and then I'm seeing the second graders, and then I'm seeing the first graders. Well, now all of them are getting this, potentially getting the same amount of STEM instruction time, but it's a much more impactful time that's making better use of the space at our disposal. Now, the realities of actually doing that can be challenging depending on your particular situation, but let's just see the impact that it has, right? Before, we had all of these students who had STEM in 1 week, and after that change in schedule, now we have a much smaller group. And in our room, before we were trying to store all of those materials, and after, now we're only storing a small fraction of them. So later on, you're going to read an article which illustrates how one teacher was able to negotiate a change in schedule like this. It's certainly going to depend on each situation that your STEM program is in, but recognizing that schedule is the key to unlocking the full potential of your STEM program is the very first step.